We're good.
All right. Welcome back, fellow TFFL owners, to your weekly TFFL webcast. Enjoy the pixelation behind that shoulder, I guess, all webcast long. So it's Wednesday. It's November 17th, 2021. We are heading into Thanksgiving week next week. Looking back at week 10 tonight, looking ahead to week 11. Rich is going to tell us about the trade deadline coming up. Sure. I mean, we are getting into the final stretch of the season here. We talked last week about how things were tightening up. We had, I think, every division was within a game of each other, at least no more than one game lead for any of the division leaders. It has tightened up even more. We are going to be talking about all these division races. I don't know that we've ever seen anything quite like this. Let me just rattle this off real quick, and Hank will back this up with the specifics in the standings. We have one division where there are 3 teams tied for the lead. We have another division where there are 2 teams tied for the lead. We have a third division where it is a half game separating now the top 2 teams. We have a fourth division where the lead is a whole 1 game, but all 3 teams in that division are within 1 game of the division lead. So we have got 4 great division battles that keep getting tighter and tighter. Some quick headlines from week 10. The Hormel Hams, our big scorer, 112 points. The real news with the Hams, and we'll see this in the standings. We'll talk about it later in our chat. They just keep rattling off big win after big win here and setting themselves up with tiebreaker advantages over all the teams that they might need to climb to get into the playoffs. So the Hams, big score, big win. Boba Fett's now on a 4-game winning streak, longest winning streak in the TFFL. They're jumping into the division lead here, tied with the Lizards. Quick injuries of note. Tell me if I'm missing any here, but Robert Woods, unfortunately, out for the season. Practice injury. Aaron Jones, I think 2 or 3 weeks maybe, with meniscus or MCL, one of the M's. Could have been worse, but again, and there's a big swing right there. With Aaron Jones going down, the Sponge Fishermen lose a little bit. Hormel Hams, with A.J. Dillon stepping in, gain a lot there. So another swing in the Hams' favor. Cordero Patterson, I think, out maybe just for a week or 2, but nonetheless, I think he's at least out this weekend. That's surprisingly a bit of a ding for the Boba Fett's. All right, those are our headlines. Let's do our panel intros and let's start talking. Starting with our commissioner, Lizards King and Ruler, Richard.
Hello. Cheers. Drinking the bullet tonight. Used my Star Wars ice, which is now melted, but all good. Just want to give one shout out again for a fabulous weekend with Phil celebrating his 50th. And all the folks I got to see in person. Most normal 24 hours I've had in 2 years. Was fantastic. And Stick, I'd like to raise a toast and congratulate you on the launch of seniorexecutive.com.
Yeah.
Really, really fantastic. Enjoy the content, everybody. And I'm looking forward to a fun webcast. It's getting tight in the TFFL. We've had 2 really, really wacky weeks in the NFL on top of it, which led to some wacky TFFL, some low-scoring games, some weird games, some unpredictability, and it's all led to what I think, Stick, you were alluding to, this very tight and very unique season that we're having this year. So, cheers. Happy to be here. Hello, everyone.
Our IT director, czar and CEO of the K-Wheels, Hank.
Good evening, everyone. I was saying to these guys, and I'll say to the rest of you in TFL land, what a great weekend. Thanks for those of you who came out and those who didn't, who cares. It was fun to be together, and thank you guys. And I continue to celebrate the fact I'm 50. So
get your shingle shot.
Sure. I get all the shots, whatever the shots
all the 50 shots.
All right. I get, don't worry. I see more doctors than any of you guys. So don't worry. I'm getting whatever shots I need to get. I got them.
Right on. I got shingles and Hep B this week after your celebration there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little slow on Sunday. I'll be candid with you guys. I was slow, as were the K wheels. So it made some sense.
Liz is like, what? This is the vaccine webcast?
Yeah. Why are we talking about getting our Hep B and our shingles shots? Right.
High command from Jack's Giant Killers. Berto,
Yes,
welcome.
Stick, good evening. I'm going to echo everything Rich said. Congrats on the website. Congrats to Phil on 50th. That was awesome on Saturday. Great time. And we got to do more of those types of get-togethers. That was a blast. So
yeah, it was. Yes, it was good for the soul. That was just great.
Hopefully we can get back to that kind of stuff on a regular basis very soon.
Yep.
All right, TFFL trivia. Let's get rolling here. I think we have one final question from Chief.
Oh, we're gonna need some more.
We're gonna need some more. This is question.
Hope he's been working on some.
Question number 6.
okay.
There we go. Right on envelope.
Once again, Chief, great questions all season long. All right. Here's an easy one. Let's get some points! Exclamation point.
Yeah, right.
I've heard this before.
Famous last words.
Good question. Since 2001, which division has won the most packed bowls? And we're going to make this even easier. Chief just gives you 2 choices, or 3 actually. The NOCO East with the Amsterdam Packers, the K Wheels, and the Giant Killers, or the SoCo East with the Dirt Devils, the Beavers, and the Mongols. So since 2001, not including, I guess we could rattle them off, the K Wheels in 97, I think the Senators.
That doesn't count.
Yeah. So since 2001, the NOCO.
So really, it's a question of who's won more pack bowls: the combined Killers and Packers, or the Triumph
Devils, Beavers, Mongols. Dirt Devils, Beavers, Mongols. It's actually probably fairly more close than you think.
See, and because of the timing on this, I got it.
And Berto had little like streaks, but the Devils were on a tear for a long time. We know that the Mongols and the Beavers at least have 1 each or something like that, right?
The Beavers, I think, have more than 1, in fact. So there's actually, I told you there was a third option here, which is they're tied. Yep.
That doesn't make it an easy question. That makes it a trick question.
Exactly. If the answer is tied, I would just throw it out right now. If it's tied, who cares?
All right.
I'll take a point.
2 points.
2 points. And they're
That
both,
feels a little low to me. I was hoping.
Well, it's a 50-50 shot, right? It's the SoCo East or the NOCO East.
It's a 1 in 3 shot. Although you're going to feel like you're kind of like Trump. You're already illegitimizing the question.
In terms of a tie,
you don't like the answer if it's a tie.
If it's a tie, so who cares? It's a who cares question. And then why are we bothering?
I might guess it's a tie just to piss you off.
I think you should.
Give this one some thought.
All right. Yeah, we should be able to figure this out, I think. Maybe.
Not a chance. This is a blind guess.
All right. Hank, TFFL standings.
Yes. I have the standings. We're going to talk about them. I don't even know how to do this anymore. All right. Well, can I do this? Yes, I can. There we go. All right. Here's the standings. I got some new graphics tonight. So the K Wheels and the Sponge are currently atop their respective conferences. However, as you see, the Giant Killers and AMPAC are tied with the K Wheels in terms of records. So that division is all 3 locked up. It's based on tiebreakers, head-to-head points.
Unbelievable.
The Lizards are tied with the Fats and have that tiebreaker based on head-to-head. But they're tied. And just to make it interesting, the Aliens have now won 2 straight and are only, a game and a half, 2.5 back. So they're still in it, theoretically. Southern side, Sponge leading. Beavers, look at that. 3-7 currently in the playoffs. And here's what that makes that interesting, is that means the Mongols and Devils down at the bottom there at 2-8 are 1 game out of the playoffs. Then we look at the Senators, who really are the only team who's kind of sitting there going, yeah, it's over. But the Hams are a half game back at the Sponge at this point. they're right there. They're gonna got some head-to-heads to go. We have so much to still to come. So Hams are half game back. Hams are one game back in the mix for the wild cards now with the K-Wheels and the the K-Wheels, the Killers, and the Ampac. And the 3-7 Beavers being in the playoffs is something we're going to talk about, I hope. So there's your look right now, and we'll continue from there.
You know what's going to happen too. That lowest seed that comes out of the other division is going to have like a miraculous day against the number one team and knock them out, and we're all going to be seriously like.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's something to talk about, and as we go. But look, the way the rules are is every division winner is going to the playoffs. So right now, either the 3-7 Beavers, the 2-8 Mongols, or the 2-8 Devils will be in the playoffs as a 4 seed.
That's unbelievable. What's the worst record ever to have gone to the playoffs? That's a cool question for
next week's trivia.
That may be next week's trivia, and my guess a week ahead is I think the Aliens might have done it one year with like a 5-7-1 record in our division. I think.
That sounds 5-7-1 sounds right.
So the team I feel bad for, and we haven't been talking about them because we've been so focused on the NOCO East, and maybe the possibility one of those three great teams somehow misses the playoffs if the Hams sneak in. All of a sudden, the Boba Fatts with 4 straight wins are 6-3-1.
Yep.
I presume you ran some tiebreakers there to show the Lizards are the division leader there.
Yeah, but they got to play again though, so it's not that's yet to be decided. So the Lizards know they're right on their heels, and because of the tie factor, well, we're gonna see.
So I was praying for Henderson to make that friggin' just 2 more points. Yeah. Damn it, he got in the end zone. It was over. I mean, I'll have the write-ups on the games anyway.
So as of now, the 6-3-1 Boba Fatts, and it very easily could be the 6-3-1 Lizards. That's a darn good record, not in the playoffs.
Yep. Same with the 6-4 Hams right now. If it ends today, the 6-4 Hams are out.
Yep. For some reason, 6-3-1
happens every year. You do your job, you win a lot of games. I've been there before and not made the playoffs and was pissed.
Yeah.
All right. So, Rich, let's talk some important notes from the commissioner's office.
Yes, indeed. The most important note that everyone needs to be concerned with is next Wednesday, a week from yesterday, is the trade deadline, right? So I think the trades need to be in by 6 p.m. on the 24th of November.
Okay, less than a week to go.
It is less than a week to go. So that, speaking of trades, I think we're going to have a little topic on that tonight. And fair warning, I will note it again, as I did last week in the commissioner report, and make sure for those who may not be watching us live or in follow-up before, that everyone is aware that next Wednesday, the 24th at 6 p.m. is the trade deadline.
Yes. So saith.
So saith the commissioner.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
How are people doing with their I haven't been looking, their free agent picks? Are people running out of them at this point in the season?
We should be. We should be.
Well, I mean, there are some teams. Go ahead, Berto. Go ahead. You want to say something?
No. I don't have it up, but we got it. Some of these teams got to be getting close, right?
Yeah, there's at least one team that I know only had like one pick left. But I can give you a little report on that if you give me a sec.
Okay. That's important to note as we head toward the trade deadline. You can trade free agents.
I assume everyone, would be paying attention to their own and what they have.
Sure.
But to report to the league what things look like right now in following week 10, I would say the minus sign here. I would say, there's 2 teams with no priority picks. I'm sorry, with no FA picks left. That would be the Aliens, and that would be the Hams. They have no free agent picks left. And both of those teams each have Stick still has both his priority picks.
Yep.
And the Hams have 1. There are numerous teams that have no priority picks left. And when I look at those, it's the Mongols have no priority picks. And then you got the Beavers with no priority picks. And then it goes the Fat Sponge and Ampac are out of priority picks. And that's it. And then there's a couple of teams with one priority pick left. There's only 2 teams with 2. That would be the Aliens, as I mentioned previously. And then the K-Wheels have both their priority picks.
Mhm.
I knew that. Now, one thing that's interesting is the AMPAC have all 4 of their FA picks still. Now, one of those you might remember is an extra pick they got from the Hams, right? Remember, there was a trade of an FA pick
Oh, that's right.
after the draft. So they got an extra one, or they have used a one, but they used both their priority picks, right? The only other team with 4 FA picks left are the Fats.
Okay. Thank you.
I think that's all that's fit
All right.
for mention.
All right. So let's start talking. And we've been running a little bit long recently, so we're going to try to keep this crisp tonight. Nonetheless, I want to goof off for at least 2 minutes at the start and just raise this question I've been dying to ask. Every week you see it on TV, 70-year-old NFL officials blindly spotting the ball when they weren't even, in line with where the player went down. You see them bringing out the chain gangs, a couple of sticks, a couple of poles and a bunch of chain links is the technology we're using. Meanwhile, we got commercials and shows devoted to next gen stats. We can tell you, the distance a ball traveled and the speed it was at and the set, how far away the closest defender was and the possibility of the completion rate. Fox has been making pucks blue and going around on TV for 20 years. We can't figure out, and Rich, again, I'm counting on IBM to have this. We can't figure out how to put something in the football. And if you get 10 yards, you get 10 yards. We know it on the spot, first down. Let's keep the game moving. Why do we need to grind the game to a halt and have these guys bringing out poles and chains in 2021? What's going on, IBM?
Are you looking for an argument? I mean,
the technology.
I don't get it.
They don't blame IBM. IBM as the technology.
They're ready.
There's lots of people that have the technology, right?
RFID tag.
Will IoT. Go look it up. Will IoT.
Yeah,
You put these things anywhere, and
On
they
the
can
ball,
track anything.
on the sidelines, whatever. You should be able to figure this out.
They're measuring all this crazy
All right,
stuff.
let's be clear though. You need to write the NFL about this because the only thing limiting it is the desire for the NFL to have these 70 some odd old people running up and down doing the change.
About that.
Like there's some, there's somebody's calling that the ritual. We can't remove that from the game. We have to
No. Because here's the thing: as the rise of sports betting cuts across the United States, and we're talking about the ebbs and flows of games and these calls being worth millions of dollars to people, we're going to eventually automate the officiating because it can be done, and because it can be done, it will be.
Yeah, I mean, how you want to be accurate, you can be as accurate as you want to be. You want to get down to that blade of grass where the ball should be, it's doable.
Sure. So just look at what TV has done. So if you take it baseball, you've got the strike zone, right?
Yep.
And you can see every pitch, and every time the ump is wrong, right?
Yep.
It's so clear. Golf, you have the ball tracker, which is awesome, right? You can
Love
see
it.
the curve of the ball, where it goes. I love that.
Yeah,
That's so great. Football, you've got the first down marker
The
on
line.
the TV that you can see, right? You've got all of these other stats and all of these other measurements that Stick just said. It just, I'm kind of shocked that it's still there.
It's just weird. It really
It
is.
is.
It's a relic
I
of the
think
game.
it's something the owners have voted against. I think that's probably what it comes down to if I'm actually thinking through it and thinking about their processes. The owners all have to agree to a new rule like that. I believe it goes through a certain process. And
What is the argument against it? What is the argument against it? I mean, that's a research project for next time. Is tell me the argument against automating officiating,
against being more accurate.
Yeah.
I just feel like they probably haven't even put much emphasis on it, because honestly, if they were going to vote against it, or instant replay would have never have come into existence if the thinking was that they did not want to downplay the role of the officials or something like that. They never would have
get
had
it right.
that never would have gotten voted in. So this piece is just something that hasn't really been put on the table yet.
Yeah, it's funny. If I think back right now, when we were watching football this weekend, at one point, Andrew said just that to me. He said, Dad, why don't they measure exactly where it is? Can't they put just a chip in the friggin' thing? Like, literally, he said that to me this weekend when we were watching.
Yep.
I mean, so it's something we all see, and I don't know why it's not there yet. It's a good point and good question. Will IoT? Look up WILIoT.
All right.
You will see. You could put these tags on anything, anywhere, and it'll do anything for you.
And again, they're clearly measuring a lot of this already. When they're tracking golf balls, they're tracking the football for
It's doable. Stick. It ain't about the technology. We already.
It's not. It's the technology.
The desire for them to implement it.
I've got a funny story about the marking. So he's got a couple of good buddies who are on the freshman football team. So him and two other guys go to watch their two friends. And Jack and his other two friends have been doing the first down and the sideline and moving it. So apparently the first game, they're going in the wrong direction. They have it on the wrong yard lines. Jack hit the opposing coach with the big foam first down marker. I mean, apparently it was chaos, but they were the three kids that were there watching the freshman football game. So
the young guys get it as messed up as the old guys.
Yeah. So it was just, when you started talking about that, I immediately went there and how funny it was. And it was more funny when Jack was telling me that story than I relayed it, but still pretty good.
That's awesome.
All right. So let's move on. Let's talk about all of these division races. And I don't want to have an 18-minute conversation, but let's start with what is it? The SoCo East, which I think is a fascinating division. Yes, it's I don't know what the word is. Maybe a little disheartening to some to see a 3-7 team make the playoffs, but at least enjoy the ride watching the Mongols and Devils. I said this before, they've got to be driving themselves nuts. Do you go for the number 1 overall pick? You got a terrible team, you got a terrible record, but now you're a game out of first place. Can you really go make any aggressive moves to try to win your division, knowing you might be giving up a pick?
Well,
I think when you're in that state, you're not of the mindset to say, I'm going to make an aggressive move.
No,
because you don't want to risk your loss at an earlier pick to only possibly make the playoffs, maybe. But I don't think they would want to give up draft capital or something to get something right now. That's my point.
So Bill was on this webcast and said he's not making any trades. He's not looking, right? So that's the Beavers. The Mongols and the Devils have already traded away talent. So I think who they got
still
right
get
now,
close to winning.
Yeah, I mean the Devils just traded away Diggs and Elijah Mitchell. They're not going out and getting anyone. I don't think the Mongols and the Beavers are going to go either way. They're not going to trade anyone away, nor are they going to get anyone either. So
it's so weird. But okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. And again, I don't want to spend 18 minutes on it, but Hank.
Yeah.
Should we change the rules such that a 3-7 or
Look, I outlined a proposal or an idea that maybe we can consider in the offseason, that in a situation where we have a division winner who is, let's say, under 500, if there are other wild card teams, like for example, to me this year the Hams at 6-4 are going to miss the playoffs theoretically to a 3-7 Beavers team because they're in the wrong division. And if there's that disparate of a difference, maybe it's something where, look, the division winner's in as long as they reach 7 wins or whatever it is. And we could talk about those numbers. Maybe we don't care, but part of it is like the divisions are somewhat arbitrary, and we're really trying to get the best teams in the playoffs, right? So for further discussion, it's just this is a highlighted example of, look, those teams right now have combined for 7 wins, and 3 of them are amongst their own division. So they've won a collective 4 games outside their division in 10 weeks. So yeah, maybe it's something to consider in the offseason. And I'm not trying to pick on those teams. It could just as easily be my division that's happening too as well.
Again, I think I've got the worst ever division winning record at 5-7-1. We'll confirm that, but yeah, could be any of us.
Well, like you talked about, I mean, the whole thought to that, it's just like the NFL stick you said at the Redskins making it with whatever they were last year. It's supposed to cycle, right? So, the divisions are supposed to cycle through, and that division theoretically will be better, right? And that's the thought. So
yeah, it's hard. It's only hard just to think that at some point there is some logic to every division having a representative there, regardless of where they end up. Because you look at this weekend as an example, the Mongols played the Fats, and the Devils played the Lizards. The Devils, like you just said, traded away their talent, and they still ended up luckily putting up 72 points or whatever it was, 75 points this week with a surprise. And had it been reversed, the Fats lose, I win, and I beat either one of those teams, right? And the luck falls the way it does. But could the Devils make a run just like any other bad team that slips in the playoff all of a sudden gets hot and makes a run? Yeah, it could happen.
They have Lamar Jackson at quarterback, sure.
This is my point. My point is, there's a lot of variables at play. And I know it feels really unfair when a team has done the work to win a lot of games during the regular season. And what are we playing just to win a lot of games in the regular season and not make the playoffs? So it makes it, it's a little cutthroat, I guess, from that standpoint. And it could be a little harsh on a few teams. And I think, the bottom line is I've felt that before because I've been in that position where I watched a team get into the playoffs and I came in second in my division and didn't make it as a wild card. And that kind of sucks. But I sucked it up and moved on to the next season and picked up my, chips and went home. Right. So
sure. And to be clear, I'm throwing this out there as a idea. This may not be a good idea.
Oh yeah, I'm not. It wasn't a judgment against the idea. I'm up for debating it, discussing it, having my mind think through the different variables of it, and is there a fair way? Because what you pointed out, if I go to the rule part of it, is there a way that if it's really ridiculous, that we, in effort to have the best competition in the playoffs, that there is something that goes into effect.
I wouldn't say it's like that they have to have one of the 4 best records. No way. There can't be 3 other teams that have a better record than them, or that have.
In college football, you have to reach a certain amount of wins to go to a bowl game.
The bowl game, right?
Yeah. I could see a proposal that makes some sense here. My big question to you is,
differences. There's hundreds of colleges and college teams and big conferences versus, there's 32 whatever NFL teams and there's, 12 of our teams, right?
Yeah, and we can all argue the divisions ebb and flow and they go in cycles, and our division is really good right now, but will really suck at some point in the future, and we have sucked in the past, whatever.
Yeah, our division is really stuck.
I get all that, and look, I'm not even suggesting that we play with like the division winner money. Fine, they still win the division winner money. But we're talking about playoffs. Shouldn't we make sure that a 3-7 team that has won 3 games is not in the first round? Given it's that seems.
I think the obvious answer here, if you are going to adjust, I mean, I would probably vote no. I mean, I'd look at the proposal and think about it. But if we're going to keep the divisions such as they are, I think it should stay the way it is. The obvious thing is you have 2 conferences, right? And you do away with the divisions, and and then we adjust it from there. So I don't see the point of having the divisions and winning a division if you're playing those other two teams twice, and then you can't, and then you can't go to the playoffs. Doesn't seem logical to me.
That's my big question. If we head in that direction, what's the point of divisions? And it doesn't mean that's a showstopper here. I'm just curious. Do we just go to 12 teams and pick the top 6? Do we split it into 2 conferences?
I kind of like the idea of 2 conferences, changing things up from how you mix up the divisions. It might make the
it would create some
place or whatever change. It'll mess up the archives, that's for sure. But hey, I'm a modern guy. World changes. I'm adaptable.
All right. Let's move on. I want to talk football. I want to talk some of these playoff races. I want to talk about trades. And in fact, let's start with trades because we had a really big one this past week. Let's make sure we cover that. Berto's done a lot of homework for his trade forecast. I want to make sure we get to that. So let's start by talking about the big trade between the Dirt Devils and the Sponge Fishermen. I don't have the details in front of me, but this is the Stephon Diggs trade. Elijah Mitchell was part of that trade as well. So the Sponge getting 2 big assets that can help them this year, depending upon how much you think Mitchell really bolsters that lineup. Diggs, obviously a longer-term keeper. I don't know if Mitchell is necessarily seen as a keeper. Some lesser players, I think, going back and forth here, but a first, a second, and a third rounder over the next 2 years going to the Dirt Devils. Quick reactions on this one.
I liked it.
Go ahead.
Yep,
go
for it. You go, Phil.
Well, I played the Sponge.
I liked it.
Yeah.
You go.
Sorry. I played the Sponge this week, and I was the first guy to have to deal with the new look Sponge with Diggs and Mitchell.
Yep.
And Diggs beat me. The fact of the matter is this trade won the game for Chief right now. So it's already
called out in the commissioner report.
Yep. So, good for Chief in that sense. But my first reaction to this, and it's still my reaction overall, is God damn, that's a lot to pay. That's a lot of, of capital that you're giving away in a first, second, and a third. You got to hope Elijah Mitchell is worth something, and if he produces for even the rest of this season, forget if he's going to be a keeper. If he's valuable for the rest of the season in the playoff run, it's probably worthwhile. So good move for Chief, and it's already paying dividends for him, you bastard.
Yeah, I like it. I know Chief didn't like my Carter deal, but they're different, and I understand his view on the Carter deal versus what he did here, which I do like because the whole thing is what we talked about last time. Is he got a stud that that makes his wide receiver core the best in the league, and arguably one of the top ones, that we've seen since the Wizards' heyday. That wide receiver. But then I'm looking at the essential document and he doesn't have a first, second, fourth. Next year, he does have an extra third. He doesn't have a second and a third in 2023. But, Chief's been doing this for several years. Mm-hmm. And if you go back and look, this is how he's been operating, and it's been a successful strategy. This year, he didn't pick until the third round, right? And it's worked for him. It's worked for me in the past.
This is the Giant Killer's playbook. You're absolutely right. I don't have all the numbers in front of me, but he has not been dealing with his first or second round picks in the draft for several years now. I feel like
he came to the same conclusion that I did years ago. Like if I'm a playoff team, that pick is diminished in the first round anyway. And you can argue about the second and the third round, but yeah, so you're right. He's been doing this for years. It's burned him a couple times because if you look at drafts, he has not made the playoffs and has lost that top pick a couple times. That's happened more than we think it has happened, where people make these trades and then somebody is drafting twice in the top 6 picks. That's happening. However, his wide receiver core is phenomenal now. He got a stud. He got a stud before they're playing the Jets. which is, to Phil's point, is a 1 week thing, but that's an important thing this week. And a guy whose value, frankly, was maybe a little bit down because, Diggs hadn't been having quite the season he had last year. And Elijah Mitchell is a good player. He could be the guy there, the starting running back. Who knows? I mean, San Francisco running back, that's a little shaky, and there's a lot of people in the mix, and Wilson's coming back, and a lot of things going on there. But still, he looks pretty good. So he got a plug and play guy. Diggs is like 27 or 28 years old, and he's got another few years with him. So, and he's got a great receiver corps. So I like it.
Yeah, I also think that, he now has plenty of draft capital to trade back to acquire other players he might want, prior to the draft. He could give away players and get more draft picks back. And Nick has capital to get players to get more keepers if he wants, right? I mean, so there's other variables again in play relative to how you think about this trade. Overall, I like the trade. I think it was aggressive for John. I'm not comfortable not having that many draft picks personally, but that's, everyone has their own strategy. And like Berto was just saying, some years it's worked out, other years it doesn't work out. And, I think that's probably on both sides. People who, tend to value their picks a bit more, regardless of where they end up in the first round. As proven number of times, you can get a gem in the, 8, 9, 10 category of a first round pick that ends up being a keeper on your team in years forward. So, I don't devalue those picks like Berto does.
Injuries obviously can always change things, but my reaction to this trade was that I think Chief largely went out and earned himself $500 and a buy. You can write off the SoCo East. Those guys are not going to take the SoCo Conference crown. So he's really competing against the Hams right now for the conference crown for $500 and a buy. Yeah. Yes, the Hams are creeping up on them, but the Spuns are in the driver's seat. They just added Diggs. They just added Elijah Mitchell. David Montgomery should be coming back soon. They only scored 52 against the K-Wheels, but that's in part because Aaron Rodgers only scored 3. And Green Bay as a team with Aaron Jones and Devontae Adams, just didn't have a big game. And he still won. And he won because of Diggs. Yeah. I think in the short term, if that's what happens, if Chief goes on and wins the conference crown and wins $500, gets a bye, it's worth it. It's worth it.
Great.
Yeah, Adams
that's a great point about the conference, right? I wonder if, and maybe he does, because again, I think it was a good trade. But if it was this week and Aaron Jones just got hurt and AJ Dillon went to the Hams, does Chief make that deal? I don't know the answer to that, but maybe it's a different deal for a better running back and not Diggs. Could be, or maybe he still would make that deal, but that's a factor. However, he does have David Montgomery is back now, and Damian Harris is supposed to be healthy this week, I think. So, but again, does he make that trade? I don't know.
As you mentioned that, the fact that Jones got hurt, what shifts to the Hams here, and is the conference really a lock? Right? That's
a big shift there. Yeah,
that's a big shift, and I mean, hopefully it's only 2 weeks for Aaron Jones, and he's back and healthy. Don't wish anyone to be injured. It just sucks when that happens. But the other side of this is whether you can actually see anyone coming back from injury and ending up helping the team, for a playoff run. Meaning, is Jones going to be dinged up for the rest of the season, and is AJ Dillon now going to change that whole dynamic in Green Bay? That's not going to have him as quite as valuable, right? I find that fascinating overall.
I think the fascinating part is that the Hams and the Sponge are currently a half a game apart. They got a game to play head to head. If Chief does not win the division, right, he is likely out of the playoffs if things hold true, or is not. He doesn't have a great odd percentage of getting the playoffs. That makes those picks pretty, a lot more valuable in that trade scenario to Nick.
Yeah.
But I'll give him credit. He pushed it in. He found a trade that was doable, and he's going for it.
This was that, but you just keyed on the other point I was wanting to make, which was I don't think anybody in the TFFL thought Diggs and Elijah were available, right? Mm-hmm. Mitchell and him were available to be traded for.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was awesome that he went after those two guys and pried them away from Nick.
Made a big enough offer. Yep.
Right. I mean, that if you ask 11 other teams or 10 other teams in the TFFL, was Nick going to hold on to those guys and those were keepers and untouchables? Most of them would have said, oh, yeah. And it was impressive that he went and got them out of it.
Yeah. And, I was pinging the Devils a while ago, weeks ago, about different players. And I don't know, and at the time, Ridley was one of those. I think it probably went something down like Chief probably went strong and put an offer and not like poking around. Hey, are you interested in trading so-and-so, which occasionally starts a conversation, but tends to drag it out a little bit longer. I'm sure Chief probably went, this is what I'll offer you. And there was some negotiation, and that's where they ended up. And, it started off as a strong offer, and it probably got a little stronger because the Devils pushed back a little bit. But to Chief's credit, I'm sure he went with a number 1 and number 2 or whatever right up front or something to that effect.
2 final notes to close the book on this deal. The Sponge not only gave up a 1, 2, and a 3 in this trade, they gave the Aliens a 4th earlier this year for Jarvis Landry. So they are, without a lot of picks, just as the Giant Killers tend to be. Mm-hmm. The other note here, I mentioned this briefly earlier in the webcast. Let me expand on this a little bit. The Hormel Hams have a lot of tiebreakers in their favor. These last 2 weeks, they have beaten the Giant Killers. They have beaten the Amsterdam Packers. So they're a game back now of both of those teams in the wild card race. Just a game back, and the Hams have the tiebreaker against both of them. The Hams also beat the Sponge Fishermen in their first matchup of the year in week 1. So as they head down the stretch here, a lot of things are in their favor. Climb one more game in the standings in the division, one more game in the standings in the wild card, and they're winning tiebreakers with anybody they're tied with in those scenarios. Mm-hmm. All right. Berto, we got we're 43 minutes in, so I'm going to give you 12 minutes.
Okay.
No more than that. I know you got, I think, 5 trades to forecast. You've done this every year for us. I think at least a couple times you've nailed some trades that have happened.
You've come close. I don't know if you've actually hit one on the nose, but we've come close.
Tell us what you got.
All right. First off, the Lizards could be saved. The Lizards, slight about face. After years of having the most dominant wide receiver corps, they're feeling a little thin there. However, the running back core is good with Mixon, Eckler, and the earlier trade this season. Best trade of the year, by the way, for Connor. And good depth at running back. Odell and Gallup are a bit of a question mark right now, wide receiver. The Lizards, with a full arsenal of picks, except for the 2022 number 3, Lizards sent a 2022 number 1 and a 2023 number 3 to the Sens for DeAndre Hopkins. Sens go full throttle rebuild and purging talent. Hopkins certainly an aged but talented wide receiver. I think he's 29 or 30 at this point. So that is the Lizards and the Sens. Okay. Number 2, the Wheels.
Yeah, I'll be straight up with you. What he's outlined is more than I'd be willing to pay for Hopkins at this stage.
We'll get to that at the end.
Yeah. Hold your comments.
All right. The Wheels dealt a terrible blow after losing Henry, but teams have come back and won a Pac Bowl after injuries have befallen them. Phil gets mentally past this and heeds Stick's advice. Phil being the next man up. What's the big trade he's going to make to win a game? The window is certainly open for the Wheels. They possess their full arsenal of picks. The Wheels contemplate a big push for Kamara, but ultimately can't quite get themselves there. They make a smaller but still important move. The Wheels send a number 2 2022 plus a number 5 2023 to the Aliens for Zach Moss. Moss is still only 23. He's got 5 TDs on the season, plays in a great offense. He's had TFFL scoring weeks of 12, 10, and 9 before he had a couple injuries. And then this past week, he had 7 points. Stick has some reservations about this, but continues the tear down and will look to get bargains in August to round out a depleted keeper list. Okay. Number 3, Boba Fats have now won 4 games in a row, which we talked about earlier. The TFL's hottest team. They've had the year's top free agent pickup in Cordell Patterson. They're feeling good with Taylor, Javonte, and Patterson at running back, even though Patterson may be out for a week or so. They then also have added depth at running back if needed with Travis Kelce and a couple other folks on their bench. What they do lack is some wide receiver star power. They have an in-season surging Devontae Smith, but the other wide receivers and depth does not inspire confidence. With Cam now at the helm in Carolina, the Fats feel like DJ Moore would help. Still only 24 and held back due to uneven quarterback play this year in California, the Fats send a 2022 number 3 and a 2023 number 5 to the Sens for more. The Sens are collecting draft picks and are starting to take the approach about filling in the keeper list over the summer. Guys like Moore will be available, as the Sens know, because they traded for him this past August for a fifth.
These are some good names.
Yeah.
Are we still going?
Okay.
Yep. We have more.
Yep. Another team that's surging is the Hormel Hams. As we just outlined earlier as well, they've won 3 in a row. Mahomes played like Mahomes on Monday. They boast the TFFL's number 1 scoring wide receiver unit, with CD Lamb leading the charge. Yes, that's true.
Yep.
But they also have the TFFL's number 12 rushing attack, which is also true.
With Myles Gaskin leading the charge.
Yes. They do get at least a temporary bump, as we outlined earlier, by former first-round pick A.J. Dillon moving into a starting role, at least temporarily. But help is still needed. The, once again, friendly trading partner in the division, Senators, they, too, start discussions about Kamara. But again, Michael, what Crames is asking is too much. Michael gets cold feet based on the exorbitant price Crames is looking for. Instead, a combo of CEH and Darrell Williams, so sending the Kansas City backfield to the Hams, is consummated. In exchange, the Hams ship Mike Williams, who is a bit of a luxury on the Hams right now, and frankly has had about 5, low single-digit weeks. So they ship Mike Williams, who the Sens can, think about as a keeper for 2022, and a 2023 number 2. Okay.
That's an interesting point.
Okay. That's a relatively cheap price for a starting backfield for the Hams. Again, they can start one of those guys, whoever is healthy at the time, in a high-powered offense. Sens are in full rebuild mode, but still would go Murray, Kamara, Hunt, Andrews, and Williams, and again, a buyer in August to round out that keeper list. Okay. Okay. And finally, the AMPAC, feeling confident as ever in their team. But Ralph can't quite shake the feeling that everything isn't right with Wilson. However, Ryan Tannehill steps in this week against Houston and has a nice game, and it gives Russell Wilson another week to get right. Okay, so instead, Ralph's opts to add more depth at wide receiver. He looks to the aliens once again. He picks up Amari Cooper and Tony Pollard for depth behind Zeke, okay, from the aliens. At first glance, a fourth receiver on the AMPAC seems like a bit of a luxury with the talented trio of Allen, Hill, and Thielen, but depth for a sometimes fragile Tyreek Hill and Keenan Allen is probably needed, and Pollard is just a real good backup insurance policy for Zeke. The Packs send a number 2 in 2022 and a number 3 in 2023 to the aliens. And then one other bonus trade.
Repeat that. Who'd they get for those two?
They got
Cooper and
Pollard and Amari Cooper for a number 2 next year and a number 3 in 2023. And then finally, a bonus trade, maybe an either or for the AMPAC. The AMPAC love the idea of a top flight tight end after having Gates and Jimmy Graham for years. They reach out to the Devils for George Kittle and offer a number 1 in 2022 and a number 4 in 2023 to the Devils for George Kittle.
That's a good trade.
That's all I got.
Who was the team asking for that? I missed the
Packers, the AMPAC.
Got it.
AMPAC get Kittle for a first and a fourth. That's a good trade. Stick is devastated right now that you undervalued Amari Cooper and Tony Pollard so
Well,
dramatically.
yeah, and I think Berto should maybe just
Nice work, Berto.
look. Yeah, really, really good.
Yeah,
I thought
really
those were
good.
all fantastic, Berto.
Yes.
That was really well done homework and well thought out
Yep.
with commentary and color around each trade and team and their composure. Thank you for that. I thought that was great.
That
Now,
was Burger.
the only-
That's what we've come. Yeah.
What the one thing I would just say is I think there's a secondary, and I know the analysis, you didn't have a ton of time. You're working on this afternoon, maybe you did a little homework beforehand. But
8:45.
whatever it was, I think that if you recast that and go back and look at the equity that you're balancing, like if you go look at what you proposed for me and Kramer with Hopkins, what you said for Amari Cooper as an example.
Yeah.
You just said that Cooper was worth less than Hopkins, and I don't think that's the case, right?
Yeah.
And you gave a lot more weight to what, and maybe because it was Kramer trading versus Stick, and you weighed that into what their value their players at. I don't know. Maybe there was something subliminal there, Stick. I'm not sure. But my point here is that I think there's some equity balance that you can relook at there, recast that with maybe a slightly different suggested value around some of the
Thanks, Rich.
I thought the suggestions were great though.
Yeah, that's fair. You know, and I did go back. I didn't tweak it after, but I looked at Amari Cooper after, and I was like, oh shit, he's he had a huge week.
2 weeks.
That was CeeDee Lamb this past week.
Yeah.
Excuse me, against the Killers. But I went back and looked, and he was higher than I anticipated. Where was he?
He's like 20th overall.
He's
up there.
I mean, there was a stretch where Dallas was not passing the ball all that much, where Lamb had some down weeks as well.
And and then the other here's what it was. And then the other thing, looking at CeeDee Lamb is like 5th.
Right.
So, part of my thought process on that is that, CeeDee Lamb is really the one.
Stepping up to be the one.
He's the 1 or 1A, and Amari Cooper is the 1B. DeAndre Hopkins is the guy there. So that was a little bit of it too. Although, to your point, I didn't do a whole tremendous amount of,
Hopkins is 29.
In terms of the value.
DJ Moore is 24. They're 12 points apart. Like 12 points apart between DJ Moore, and he's 24 years old. Look at the equity there.
Yeah.
And then 29 years old, and Hopkins, he's super talented. Yeah, he gets the ball. I get it.
Yeah.
But also dinged up, a little of a head case, and I don't know.
Yeah. DJ Moore doesn't tend to get into the end zone as much as either of those two guys, but and that's why I traded him. But and that could prove out to be wrong over the coming years. But he just doesn't score.
Right.
But
not as consistent as Hopkins for sure.
Right. And then the other thing is I did have on the second screen here the essential documents. I did at least try to see who had picks in what rounds to some degree. And I gave up on that a little bit, other than having a general idea of how many picks were missing. And as you'll see that there were no trades for the Killers or the Sponge because we've kind of shot our load at this point. Possibly, maybe not, but.
Hank, comment?
I have spent a lot of time recently looking at the roster grid and seeing players that may be worth targeting and kind of, where they are. I'm not a very good trader in this league. I don't do a lot of trades. They're not there. And I think it's because of things like the value being thrown around for guys like Michael Carter and what it takes to get a lottery chip. Berto, I commend you that you're willing to do that. At the same time, I'm like, what the hell are you thinking? You just gave up, a bunch of picks for a guy who's done nothing on the Jets.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see how it goes. You're either brilliant or you're an idiot. I hope it's the latter, but we'll see. And as I look at the trading menu, sure, would I like to add a guy to my team or have something there? Sure. I'm probably not willing to give up nearly what it would take to pry somebody away that would really help me. So, I don't see myself doing a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to litigate the Carter trade because I did that last webcast, but it's different. That was a different trade for me, and I looked at it from a lot of different angles, and then I said, yeah, I want this guy. However, that when I saw Chiefs deal, I was like, oh, fuck, maybe I should have, badgered Nick a little bit more because I love that trade and I love Diggs. I don't tend to trade for wide receivers, going into the playoffs like that. I want a running back because they're going to get hurt, just like Aaron Jones and just like the rest of my running back core has been dinged up all year, but I've been, cobbling it together. But yes, it is different, the Carter trade. You're right. And that is a different value for sure. However, your other point about making a trade, you're there, you're knocking on the door. So if you don't make a trade and add this talent, then,
what talent? I guess that's what I'm saying is I'm looking at it. I'm saying I'm willing. I will trade my number 1 and number 2 picks for who?
Alvin Kamara.
Alvin Kamara. I have a bet right now with Kramer that I'm going to win, by the way. More fantasy points between week 10 and week 18, Ingram versus Kamara. I have Ingram, and I'm going to win. Kamara
right.
Does anybody remember the
that's
trade?
One guy that's out there, and I wouldn't have paid a lot for him either because he's older. However,
and Kamara, and he's going to want a 1 and a 2 for Kamara, and it's like
there's still probably other things out there that you're not. And Stick made the point: you're not going to replace Derrick Henry. That's true, and maybe an Alvin Kamara type trade would be a reach because you're trying to, replace that guy.
That would be chasing a replacement for Derrick Henry.
There should be something out there and a piece that you can add to the wheels, because if you don't, then, you're not making the move and it's been shown that making these deals are going to help, propel you into the playoffs and, a packed bowl.
I don't want to even admit the amount of time I've spent looking at this.
I'm not sure the running back is out there if you're talking about Phil, putting together a big package, which I know is not his style anyway, but even if we could convince him, go spend, I don't think there's a running back out. Maybe it's Kamara, but I don't think Kramer's going to give him up for what Phil wants to pay.
The value's going to be off there.
And you don't need a receiver.
No, I don't. If I need anything, I need a running back. Right. And I would love to get one. But you look at who could you possibly get and which team would trade it to me. Like, sure, I'd love to go get Dalvin Cook. The Packers aren't trading with me. So you look, and a lot of guys
are trading Dalvin Cook.
No, they're not trading Dalvin Cook. If I offered him two ones and a player back and Derrick Henry,
Listen, your team could be good enough to win it without making that trade. That is a fact. That is true. I don't think the Killers were there quite yet, and probably not the Sponge either. So that's why we both made deals. But maybe if I'm the Ampac or the Wheels, I don't make a big trade. That's true.
Yeah.
You don't have to make the trade if you don't see the value. I get that. I just, and it sounds like you're turning over all the rocks and you're kicking the tires on everything. It's just you haven't found that.
I'm wide open to it. I don't think I've been shy about saying I want to win the Pac Bowl this year. And I've had some blows against that. My top 2 running backs have been, Henry was great, but he's gone. And Barkley hasn't been here yet.
Yeah.
So,
Barkley's back this week.
I hear you. Carson's been out for me. Sanders has been out. Chubb has been in and out.
Yep. No, I'm not saying I'm alone. I'm not.
No,
now Derrick Henry is a different thing, and I totally get that. But it doesn't. So I think to summarize this, you're not shutting your mind off to the possibility of making a trade. You just don't see the value, which is a different distinction. And
I think that's my point.
Appreciate that.
Yes, is the amount of time I have spent trying to find the guy that I would go offer the right value for. I can't find it, and I've spent a lot of time looking for it.
Yeah.
The only specific suggestion I've given you that I will stand by is you've got 2 roster spots for your 2 rookie quarterbacks.
Sure, get rid of them.
Who are not really going to be factors. Maybe Fields, if you had to start him, is doing okay.
Yep.
I'm not sure either one of those guys has done enough to be a keeper next year for you.
No.
So in essence, they're your number 3 and 4 quarterbacks.
Yep.
There's got to be somebody who gives you a little more comfort at receiver or running back or another tight end in case Pitts goes, something that is more valuable to you than 2 dead quarterback spots.
But this is why I have the trade on the trades that should happen here is not Alvin Kamara. It is Zach Moss for a much cheaper price, which is not unreasonable.
But
if you and Stick chatted for a half hour, you could maybe come to something for him.
I think
is it worth it to you? And is it worth it to you? Is it a guy that's going to be in your starting lineup? Maybe not. Who knows? I don't know.
And you're underestimating dramatically how Stick values Zach Moss. In that you think it would take a 1 to get Zach Moss. And I'm not offering a 1 for Zach.
No one would pay a 1 for Zach Moss.
No, but I didn't have
the only person who thinks Zach Moss is worth the 1 is the guy in the upper corner.
But I said,
let's talk.
I said, but hold on. I said a number 2 in 2022 and a number 5 in 2023 for Zach Moss. There was no number 1 here.
And I find it interesting that you took on the notion of like piling picks on him multiple years versus just a 2 for Zach Moss and something. Every one of your things had this complex
multiple picks.
And I think throwing that in, that's the part on the equity thing that you got to relook at.
I stopped short of conditional trades because I couldn't complete that in a half hour. But
Yeah.
Well, you want to make a little flavor to it.
I like it. Great fodder.
Let's try to wrap up here. We've now slightly gone over an hour. Yep. Rich, real quick, we don't even need necessarily a big discussion on a game of the week, but let's just rattle off who's playing who this week. Week 11.
Give me 30 seconds.
I believe this is our quote unquote.
This is our extra week.
Extra week. Yep.
This is your extra.
Yeah. So I can tell you, I know we play the Sens again. So we got Lizards Senators for Redux. Maybe we'll make a trade before the game. We'll see. Wouldn't be the first time. We got the Ampac Devils. That's a fun matchup. Maybe the Devils are on a comeback. We shall see. Chance to win the division. Maybe get tied for the division. Mongols K-Wheels. I don't know. Those Mongols seem surprising. They almost pulled it off against the Fats. Shoulda. 3 points by the Patriots. That was the difference. Beavers Killers. It's another good one.
Must win game.
Must win game for the Killers. Stay in pace with the Wheels and the Ampac. Interesting one. Hams, Aliens on a 2-game winning streak. Hams all of a sudden got AJ Dillon and Mahomes showing up. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I've seen stranger things over the last 2 weeks. Nothing's predictable. And you got the Fats going up against the Sponge. Not an easy game for the Fats, but the Sponge will be Aaron Jones-less. So, maybe that's advantage, although they could be Cordell Patternless. So, maybe that evens out. We'll see. There are your games of the week. I think if I'm looking at one, it's a Sponge Fats. I think that's the game of the week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yep.
Yeah.
But again, they're all big games. And let me pull out a couple more here real quick. That Beavers Killers is a division leading team playing a team tied for a division lead. Aliens, yeah, two straight wins for the Aliens, meeting a surging Hams team. Do the Aliens actually have to think about trying to make the playoffs now, for crying out loud? All right.
No aliens.
All right. I'm starting to rip open answer 6 envelope here.
I did tie.
I said I would vote for the tie just to anger Hank.
Okay, fine. If it's
I figured it had to be the tie because he wouldn't have thrown it in.
If the Beavers have 2, I think I have this.
I think
Devils
the answer
4, Mongols 1, Beavers
is because
2.
of the year I got this. The 2001 is the first time the Devils won, and it's going to be a tie. And the last year is the Mongols won, so I figured that's the one that gave them the lead.
Oh,
They beat the Killers twice, but I know the Killers have 5
going
and the
with
Devils
Kisser's
have
sister.
4.
So what's your guess, Berto?
Tied.
Tied. Rich says they're tied. I say they're tied. Hank says so.
Tied at 7, I think.
Wow. Okay. So I want you to know, on the answer card, not only do I have the answer, but I have commentary from Chief who says, I will be really disappointed if Berto missed this. And I am happy to report Berto nailed it, not just with the correct answer that, yes, they are tied, but
I'm done with
Berto nailed the
trivia.
exact number, which is 7 each.
Chief,
I
that is a
remember draft
garbage
picks.
question. Who cares?
I can't remember draft picks
He
and
said
who
it
was
was an
picked
easy
where,
one.
and I got that question wrong last week. Pack bowls I can get.
all right. I'm keeping pace. I gained one on Hank there.
Berto
I like
maintains his lead. All
Oh, I
right.
gained 2. It was a 2-pointer, right?
2 points.
That's why ask the question? It's tied. Well, then who cares? Who cares?
Oh, it was still, like I said, it turned out to be a trick question.
It's a bullshit question.
All right.
Yeah.
Hour and 7 minutes. We're going to wrap up. Heading into week 11 here. Good luck to everybody. We will try to squeeze in a webcast next week, pre-Thanksgiving. Hank, you're going to be in Napa.
I'm going to be in California. We'll see how that goes.
All right.
Yeah, I can't do Wednesday, but
I figured Wednesday. Yeah, so maybe Tuesday night we'll do it, or
we'll discuss and see what we can do.
4 p.m. on Thursday, perhaps.
Dude, I'll talk to you guys all weekend. I'm going nowhere. I'll be here. I'm hanging out. People are here. You'll probably be helping me escape something.
Exactly.
The other thing too, if we do it Tuesday, we can have some trades announced on the webcast, maybe.
Ooh. Tuesday evening's wide open. I'm good any night. No matter.
All right, get your trade talks accelerated. Let's see if we can get them done before the webcast so we can talk about them, or we'll get them done during the webcast, announce them live. But if any of our viewers we don't see or you don't see us before Thanksgiving, have a happy Thanksgiving. We'll find some way to join you next week, probably on Tuesday night. Good luck in week 11 in the meantime, and take care, everybody.
Excellent.
Go K-Wheels.
Go K-Wheels, sure.
That's what I say. All right. Cheers.